Thursday, September 29th. My name is Josh Grossman. With me as always, Jeff Hahn, Landon Rush, and this is Fantasy Inception. And we're back. All right, we're very excited to bring you guys a new episode. Disclosure at the onset, I did not have any time to prep, so I am heavily relying on Landon and Jeff to carry the show. As always. Guys, are you ready?
Big problem.
We're in trouble.
I am very excited. We are going to have a couple new segments, which are all about you gents. So we're going to start with a new segment from Landon. This is going to be a continuous weekly thing. We'll do our week 3 review. We will do our pick'em, Jeff's segment, and then we'll look at next week's show. Should we explain why Landon is wearing?
No, I think it's just.
Let's hold off. We'll explain in a little bit. One new thing: we are taking viewer questions or comments, but mostly questions. Complimentary comments are also acceptable. FantasyInception@gmail.com. Our producer will be monitoring that email 24/7. He's not allowed to sleep. So send in your questions or comments.
We
All right,
guarantee
Landon.
a response in 3 minutes to your question.
Or your money back. Landon, do you want to start us with your new segment?
Sure. I'm in between a couple names, and I can we'll leave it
Let's
up
hear 'em.
to the comments in the comment section. Either you serious, bro? Or say what?
Okay. Do you want to explain what the segment is?
So what I'm, at least for this week, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to continue it, I'm just going to go the major positions, quarterback, running back, and wide receiver, and give you 2 players in each category, and you guess who has, I'm going to ask a couple questions for each category, and you're going to say who you think has, what the right answer is. And it's going to be in between like a superstar player and someone that you would not consider a superstar player, maybe someone that's on the waiver wire or someone that wasn't drafted, that sort of thing. So First, start with the quarterback. I went with 2 players, Russell Wilson, who was drafted for $6, and he's going against Jared Goff. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions, and you tell me who is leading. Who is the winner between those two? So between those 2 players, who has more passing yards through
This
week
sounds like
3?
a segment eerily similar to something from a podcast we both listen to.
I know, maybe, but I put my own spin on it. So who has more passing yards, Goff or Wilson?
Goff.
I would Goff.
That's correct, by 5 yards. Who has more rushing yards, Jared Goff or Russell Wilson?
Goff.
Wrong. Wilson, suckers.
Oh.
22 yards, whopping 22 yards for Wilson versus 15 yards for Goff. So not that
That might
much
be
of a
more
difference.
than Williams has on that team.
Very possible.
Yeah.
More passing touchdowns, Jared Goff or Russell Wilson?
Gotta be Goff.
Goff.
It is Goff, 7-2. And then the big one, more fantasy points, Goff or Wilson?
Goff.
That is correct, 51-39.
I picked him up ironically today in our league. I'm going to roll him out there this week.
After I did this. All right, running back. Cordero Patterson versus CMC. Cordero Patterson was drafted for $3. Christian McCaffrey for $60. So who has more rushing yards, Patterson or CMC?
Cordero Patterson just put up a career best last week, 140 on the ground. So I'm going with Patterson.
Patterson is correct, 302 to 243. More receiving yards, Patterson or CMC?
Patterson.
CMC.
CMC, 57 versus
Man,
28.
4 for 2.
More touchdowns, Patterson or CMC?
Patterson. 4-2, I think.
2-1, Patterson.
Oh, I was way off. Same ratio.
And then
Same ratio.
More fantasy points, Patterson or CMC?
Patterson.
Correct, 47 to 41. And last one, this one hurts me. Jamar Chase, who, again, as we record this, is sucking ball sack, versus Curtis Samuel, undrafted. I paid $57 for Jamar Chase. Who has more receiving yards, Chase or Samuel?
Big game won by Chase. He's been serviceable, though. I'm going to say Chase.
Chase is correct, 212 to 181. Who has more catches, Chase or Samuel? More receptions. Samuel, 22 to 21. More touchdowns.
Samuel.
It is actually a tie, 2 to 2. Sneaky one. And then lastly, more fantasy points, Chase or Samuel?
Chase.
Samuel, 44 to 42.
Ooh,
so it's only been 3 weeks, but major disappointments out there so far.
Okay, and what are the names of that segment that you're in between?
You serious, bro? Or say what?
I like
you
it.
guys pick. Let the viewers pick.
We'll let the audience pick. Right. And Jeff, we're excited for your segment later. I hope it has just as good a title. Week 3 review. Before we get into the matchups, what the fuck was that? That was the most. I don't even know what words to use. That was just incompetency. So just to show how poor every team did last week. In week 2, there was a total between all of the 10 teams of 1,223 points scored by the starters. In week 3, that total dropped to 1,027 points. We're talking about 10 teams, so that 200-point drop is significant. Guys, is there an explanation? Was it a 1-week blip last week, or is it teams that are trying to iron out new players, new QBs, that type of thing? What do you? What's the reason that last week was just poor NFL all around?
Yeah, it's tough to say, but I mean, I do have one theory. We did lose quite a few starters last week. For example, guys like David Montgomery went down early, and Khalil Herbert may have been on a bench, right? And he went bananas, I think, for 100-plus rushing yards and had maybe multiple scores in that game. I'm not sure, at least one for sure, but that's just a quick theory of mine as to why we saw maybe some down weeks amongst our starters. For example, I mean, DeAndre Swift did nothing. Jamal Williams, I don't know if he was necessarily in Varanik's lineup, right? But
I don't think he was, but yeah,
he was. So okay, I mean, we
I don't think he was.
Yeah, so just things like that. I think we saw some big injuries this past week to some key players that I think may have resulted in down scoring for starters in particular.
Landon, agree?
Yeah, I agree with everything, and yeah, I mean, it's just through the first 3 weeks. I mean, the running backs have just been huge disappointments so far. Like you mentioned, like the injuries with Khalil Herbert, Jamal Williams. Yeah, you said that too. But like Mac Hollins and Zay Jones, both in the top 6 for the wide receiver scoring for last week. It's been a funky year so far. Hopefully it doesn't continue, but I don't know. It doesn't seems different than most other years.
Yeah. All right, let's look at last week's. Chris wanted me to really focus on this matchup and just point out his 3-0 record, how he destroyed you, Jeff.
Yeah. Starting wrong players, that's another reason why there was such a low score. And
yeah, you were really killing yourself for
unbelievable how bad I was.
You couldn't have known. Landon, for Jeff, a big injury with Swift combined with a lot of points on his bench equaled doom for his week. Is this Jeff being a bad manager or just hindsight is 2020?
I could have started anybody other than Brandon Cooks and had more points in that position. Everyone on my bench. Anyway,
it's Geoff being a bad manager.
That's what
really all I got.
Yeah. Jeff, Chris is our last 3-0 manager. Traditionally, Chris has lost at multiple key players to injury by this point in the season. If his team maintains a decent amount of health, is it strong enough for Chris to win it all?
So yeah, I think this is if healthy, he'll put himself in a great position to win it all. Yes, I do like the makeup of his roster here, and I do think that he has some players there that are ascending or have not even started to reach their stride. So I really like Sutton a lot. He's getting between 10 to 12 targets a game. That's a great wide receiver 2 for him. Austin Eckler and Leonard Fournette, we haven't even begun to see those guys kind of take off to what we know they can do. And their breakout games, I think, are right around the corner. So, again, if this team can stay healthy, I do believe that he has positioned himself nicely to make a run at a championship title.
Way to go, Roland.
Yeah, and hopefully we've just jinxed him enough to ruin his chances. All right, next
Cordell Patterson,
matchup.
what a huge surprise. I mean, I guess
Sorry,
I'm
who did you
not
say?
Patterson. I guess I've never really been like. I mean, we saw it last year, but I wasn't on board then either, and I just that Atlanta backfield really scares me a lot, I guess. But he's continuing to get it done this year from what we saw last year, and I haven't turned a corner yet, but it
makes you wonder
whether or
not he had this all along.
Yeah.
Was it just a question of being mismanaged in his
There were
10
a lot
years
of
before
teams.
this?
There were a lot of teams, obviously, he's been on and been a part of, and it seems like he got good run on all of them, but no one ever, I don't think, used him out of the backfield.
Like
Not in this type of...
If you were Rolance in this situation, do you think you would possibly look to sell high on Patterson, or are you riding that out?
No, it's
I'm not sure what you're going to get for him. I think you
What
take.
about
I
Joe
think he
Mixon?
could win you. What's up?
Joe Mixon, maybe? You think he could maybe package something with Vranick, maybe Patterson, and I don't know, another serviceable guy that's on his team to maybe get like a Joe Mixon?
Maybe. I mean, I think Patterson can win you. Like at some point, his body is going to age out, kind of like it did last year. But
Sure.
he can give you another six plus weeks of just potentially putting you on top and giving you that a huge edge in winning. Mixon. I mean, it's weird because Cincinnati, the Cincy Miami game's going on while we speak. Hopefully Tua heals up and it's not too serious, but it's weird usage for Mixon. Burrow is not throwing it nearly as much as you would think. Mixon still doesn't look that great, but I don't know.
And I'll say this: so the one player on here that's a little suspect would be.
Am I going back to Chris?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I think it's CEH. I think Chris has him as his RB2, if I'm not mistaken. So CEH, he actually got outsnapped by McKinnon. He got outsnapped by McKinnon this last week, and they have McKinnon. They also have Pacheco, who we've seen flash and things like that. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's going to play out in Kansas City. I don't know if maybe the coaches are looking to try to get some other players involved a little bit more than CEH. He certainly hasn't done anything to lose the job at this point, but there's competition there, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out through the course of the season.
Yeah, it's strange that I saw the first Kansas City game, and I think I saw the third one, and CH doesn't get that many opportunities, but he looked good. So it was just strange that they, didn't use him more than, he was very efficient. But we'll see where that goes. Next matchup is Big Tasty versus BC. BC riding with the highest score of the week with 130. Moves to 2-1 in second place. Jeff for Adam, is Herbert's low score the result of his injury, or is it just Jacksonville is just a legit team?
No. I mean, Jacksonville defense is not good. This is one you can really pick apart. Certainly, one thing that I've seen as a trend in the NFL is when these West Coast teams have to travel east, it can really play a factor on their preparation for the game. Maybe especially if they have that early time game. I don't remember if that was like the 1 o'clock game or not, but the injury is probably a big part of why we saw such a down week from Justin Herbert.
Yep. Landon for BC, high score of the week. But it feels like he's playing with fire with his flex positions in RB. Given the crazy inconsistency we've seen across the NFL and the fact that he has Allen and Andrews and Adams that he can rely on, how are you feeling about this team?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I like the team. Like you mentioned, those three studs are going to be his anchors. And, I mean, his running backs, they're not great, but, I mean, that's the weak point of his team. But, I mean, Singletary does seem to be the guy there in Buffalo, even though they're not that much of a running team, especially with Josh Allen around the goal line and much more of a passing offense. But, I mean, he still has Cam Akers on his bench, and much to my dismay, it seems that, because I have Henderson, I think they are trying to make Akers the guy there again, or at least that's what it seems. So, I mean, if that pans out, he's in really good shape. And then Breece Hall, I think, is going to have a good second half run here to the season. He seemed to take over a little bit from Carter last week. So, overall, I think his team is pretty solid overall.
I called it last week. Thielen, I told you he's going to have a decent week.
Yeah.
You did. Good call. That's why you're an expert. Next matchup.
That's why you have a podcast.
Loses to BJV 120-100. Landon, is your team bad?
It definitely seems that way for sure. Yeah, I mean, when this is 2 consecutive weeks now with Chase and Jefferson really not performing that well, and my running backs really pooping in their pants. I mean, thankfully I got Lamar, but man, I do not feel very good about my team. After the first week, I was feeling really good. And it's been downhill I got lucky last week playing Little Fender with his 60 points, so that helped. But yeah, I don't feel good about my team through 3 weeks anymore.
Jeff, is Landon's team bad?
It doesn't. It certainly doesn't have the star power that you'd like to see from some of the other positions, I guess. Right. So he's really put a lot of his eggs in 2 baskets, given Chase and Jefferson. So if those guys don't have their big blow up weeks, he's really going to be, I think, struggling to eclipse that 120 point mark every given week.
But isn't that every team? I mean, we were just talking about Allen and Andrews being
definitely. It's all matchup based. Every team is just. I mean, and both these guys had what we thought were going to be decent matchups going into the game. I think the Jets and Detroit, right? So
Detroit.
Yeah,
yeah, you would have thought they would have done a little bit more, but this is reason to concern. I think at this point.
Yeah. Next matchup, the underperformers versus your all fired.
He's got a lot of running backs though too that are kind of like these low end number 2, 1B type of guys, if you will. I mean, the Hunt and the Dillons. Yeah, I mean, if maybe an injury to the top guy, Aaron Jones or Nick Chubb, happen, then that can vault his team a little bit more into a better position. But looks like he's streaming the tight end position a little bit there too, and it's just hit or miss. You never really know with some of these outside 10, or let's just say outside top 7, 8 guys, maybe who's going to get the touchdown in any given week, right? And so that's what they're all 3 for 30 type of guys, and then you're just hoping that one of them gets a touchdown to get you to 10 points or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 or 3 top tight ends. Other than that, it's
there's nothing.
Connor's scary, right? I mean, he's a little dinged up, it seems like, right now, and you kind of just think it's a matter of time, maybe before he has a more permanent injury. So again, these are just all players that you take on a little risk with, I guess, given their positions on their teams.
Yeah, I think they're like I said earlier. I think a lot of the teams that are facing the same thing. There's 2 tight ends that you could really rely on. The running backs that we thought, Jonathan Taylor, CMC are barely cracking the top 10. I think Chubb's number 1, so it's been a very weird 3 weeks. Next matchup, I lost to Matt's You're All Fired. Jeff CMC now in the injury report. If he is ends up missing a game, is it worth picking up one of his backups? I don't even know who it would be, whether it would be Hubbard or
Foreman.
I'm blanking on the other guy's name.
Deontay Foreman.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
I mean, in that offense,
imagine,
is it just?
I would imagine it's going to be a split between those two guys moving forward if CMC has to miss time. And from my understanding, it would be probably Foreman as the one first, second down back, and then they'd bring in Hubbard as kind of that passing down back. So, for me personally, I would probably prefer Foreman over the Chuba Hubbard. But if I'm a CMC owner, then I'm probably going to grab one of these guys just as an insurance policy, and then make sure I'm not overspending on fab, that sort of thing. Unless you have a really deep situation on your bench, which kind of looking at it ahead of time, I don't see where you have that depth. I mean, you're carrying two QBs
But you're
right now.
wrong.
As far as running back goes, I mean, you got wide receivers, so I mean, you can clearly fill.
I'm just going to ride
wide
Herbert
receivers.
into the sunset.
Yeah, and then you got Dobbins in there too, which I guess would fill that CMC role, but he's not going to make up for that production. So maybe you look to. I thought you had two QBs on your bench, but maybe not. I mean, one.
I do. This is last week's
Okay.
roster.
So maybe you look to drop the one QB just to pick up the backup until we know for certain. But that's the risk, I guess. You knew you were taking on when you drafted a guy like CMC, right? So
definitely. Landon, this is just, I need advice. I can't seem to get a defense that scores points. What is the strategy behind
preach.
picking the right defense? Dallas scored 14.5 for Fender. It's a good defense going against a Giants bad
Good match.
offense.
Yeah.
But the Chargers were supposed to be legit. Jacksonville, again, not a terrible offense, but any advice on how you're supposed to choose the right defense?
No, I mean, I don't have any secret. I don't think I'm that great at it, to be honest, either. My defense in week 2 was Cleveland, and they put up 3 points. They were projected to get 12 against the Jets. It seems to be that it's a little bit like a coin flip for the most part. It's similar to the kickers, which is why I got rid of the kickers, because it's a bunch of freaking garbage. We can get 20 points from a kicker or 2 points from a kicker. But, I mean, there are better defenses out there, obviously, like Buffalo. Philadelphia is becoming a pretty good defense. But, I mean, it's just, you got to keep an eye out for injuries for teams that can play a role. Like, I picked up Green Bay this week because they might be playing New England with a backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. So it's just little stuff like that. But just, I go off the projections like normal Joe Schmo does.
All right, last matchup from last week. Walter wins a nail biter against Admore. Landon, Admore is getting hit massively with injuries. Who are you most worried about?
It'd be Mr. St. Brown for me. I mean, I don't think he's practiced the last 2 days. He seems like he's going to miss this week. He's a huge part of his team. He's an amazing wide receiver this year. They say that the tests for his ankle were encouraging, but what does that mean exactly? Is this a 1 week thing, 2 week thing, 3 week thing? So that's a big loss if he doesn't come back soon.
Yep, and he was a blast to watch. Jeff, for Walter's team, is Stafford even startable? I feel like we're to a little bit better extent, but the sort of the top people that we talk about for the tight ends, it seems like there's a clear 4, 5 QBs that are just crushing it, and everyone else is just, you're lucky if you hit 15, 16 points.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the elbow is affecting him right now, so there's a bit of an injury there. But is he startable? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's tough in maybe a 10-team league because there are some QBs out there. But if you're asking me if I'm going to choose between Stafford, Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky, like, I'm taking Stafford over all those guys every single time, right? I mean, we know he's a gunslinger. We know he can throw the pill around out there. So, You know, it was a down week for him, and what you would have thought would have been a pretty high scoring game, but it just didn't happen that way. So, look, I like Stafford. You're going to have down weeks. You just got to chalk it up for a down week.
Yep. All right. Now we are on to Jeff's new segment. Jeff,
All
do you
right.
have a name for yours?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just your regular wide receiver cornerback matchup review.
We need a better name.
How about
Audience?
Come up with something.
Geoff's Corner?
Ooh.
Geoff's corner. Come in, yeah.
Nobody puts Geoff in a corner.
Oh, that's good too. Okay. All right, so here's
a
the
long
guys that I like this week, though. Okay, so we'll just go through them.
I'll
real
explain
quick.
it a little bit. So you're going to go through.
I'm just going to go through guys that I, from my understanding, are going to be matched up on the field pretty consistently, and then I'll mention if there might be a shadow coverage involved, which could be. Sometimes it could be beneficial, even if a guy shadows, but sometimes these top cornerbacks might shadow a guy, and that might mean that it's a little bit of a downgrade for them this week. So maybe don't have too high of expectations when rolling them out there. For your studs, your starters, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, if I put them on this list, you're still going to roll them out there, right? You're not going to put them on your bench. Are you kidding me? You didn't drop $60 on them in your bid to just have them ride the bench, right? So keep that in mind. But that's really the reason why I'm doing this. Maybe if anybody listening has a few shekels that they want to throw at maybe some propage this weekend, these might be some good plays. So a couple guys that I like this week. Stephon Diggs going against Jalen Armour. Okay, he's got a great matchup. Jalen Armour has been letting up 19 yards per catch and has an 89% catch rate going against him. We got CD Lamb. I like him a lot going against the Jags secondary. You're thinking about what guys who have done serious work against the Jags secondary leading up to this coming week. We have Pittman, Amon St. Brown. We saw last weekend with Devontae Smith. All again, well, no, Devontae Smith, he went against Washington, didn't he? But all these guys went against the Jacksonville Jaguars and had good numbers that were posted, especially in weeks 1 and 2. William Jackson, he gives up 15.2 yards per catch, and I've told you multiple times about Benjamin St. Juice. This guy is trash. Okay, so he's gonna absolutely torch him if he lines up against him. I think Noah Brown could also be a sneaky play in that game. Amon St. Brown, if he plays, I love him, especially in the slot going against Kobe Bryant. Yes, that's right, Kobe Bryant. He's led in 7 catches against 9 targets, and he averages 18 yards per target. Michael Jackson, on the other side for Seattle, has allowed 14.2 yards per catch, and all 3 cornerbacks are letting up pretty big yardage.
So what
So
is
you-
what
if
is
Amon
the
doesn't
average? Like as far as what a cornerback gives up, is there like an average number? Like you said, like 14.2.
Yeah,
is
so
that
like
a lot?
this week, a good example would be, got to remind me, who is Las Vegas? Oh, they're playing Denver. So Devontae Adams is going against Surtain, I guess, and he actually only allows 5.6 yards per catch. All right, so that's really good. So anything less than double digits is good. Anything when you start to exceed 15 upwards of that's bad. Okay, so a couple guys that I also like. We'll just roll through them really quickly. I like Michael Pittman this week going against Tennessee, and I like Keenan Allen going against Desmond King. Desmond King actually used to play for the Chargers, so maybe he has a little bit of a know-how on maybe how they'll front him a little bit, but he's allowed 16.3 yards per catch. And then also Derek Stingley, who's a rookie. Teams have continued to pick on Derek Stingley all season long, and so I think Mike Williams could also have a pretty good matchup there, or vice versa, whoever decides to face off with whomever. So moving on to some of the downgrades that guys I don't like this week. Jamar Chase was on the list. So sorry, Landon, but he is drawing a lot of coverage from Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard is a little bit dinged up, but as we're seeing, he's having a pretty decent game here against Chase. He did get beat against Bateman, but that's really about it so far. Justin Jefferson this week in New Orleans.
Hey, take it easy, okay?
Just saying, he's going to get shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore, and we know what kind of player Marshawn Lattimore is. We see the shutdown with Mike Evans pretty regularly, so he will most likely follow him. It will most likely be a little bit of a shadow coverage, which would be the cornerback shadowing, and then they'll have a safety over the top for help. Devontae Adams, we talked about him a little bit. DK Metcalf going against Akuda, that could be a tough matchup as well. So I do actually like Tyler Lockett in this game a little bit. I think he will have another big day. And finally, I think that all of Jacksonville, Kirk, Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, going against that Philadelphia defense, who has been really good, balling out. So kind of put it in perspective, Darius Slay, we all know, he's only let in 8 catches this year. James Bradbury, I want to say he came over from the Giants. He's only allowed 9 catches this year. And then Avonte Maddox, he plays kind of out of the slot for these guys. He's let in a few more receptions, but he tends to keep the players in front of him, so he's not letting up any big plays. So I think Jacksonville players would be ones to avoid this week as well. Hopefully that helps. Maybe pick some of your sit starts, but we'll see.
I like it. Jeff, thanks so much. That should be very helpful. All right. We're going to move on to the pick'em. As we mentioned last week, we are going to have a penalty board. We did not have time to make this fancy, but this is the board of penalties. Each week, the loser is going to choose their own penalty from this list. You can see Landon is dressed as a shark.
One more downgrade that I got to get to. I'm sorry. So anybody that picked up Devontae Parker, hoping for the big game that he had last week, I wouldn't expect it. Obviously, there's no Mac Jones. We saw him go out. Devontae Parker, they're going against Green Bay. So obviously, we saw Mac Jones go down last week. He's got a high ankle sprain, going to be out for multiple weeks. So we got Hoyer coming in as a replacement. I don't see it happening. I would have to imagine that Jair Alexander is going to be matched up.
Isn't he injured?
Devontae Parker? I don't think so. And
okay.
And if so, that would certainly be a downgrade as well. So that was the last one on my list there. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jeff Hahn, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Board of penalties. So each week, the loser of the pick'em is going to choose their own penalty. This way, towards the end, we're going to have only the worst penalties for you guys to watch. If you have any recommendations, we are happy to remove some of these and fill them. Put some new ones in there. Only one penalty, and then that penalty is going to be removed. So Landon is dressed up as a shark, which is, I assume, your Halloween costume.
What are you talking about? That's his son's
coming up.
Halloween costume.
Yeah.
What's up?
That's his son's Halloween costume.
It fits. Strange that his son's Halloween costume fits.
Nice
like a
and
glove.
snug.
Like a glove.
So we will remove Halloween costume. That will no longer be an option moving forward. Some of the other penalties: pie to the face, egg to the head, mustache, Movember, but it could be anytime. Eat a hot pepper, which was my personal favorite from last year. Brush teeth with shaving cream. Duct tape, wax. I'm a little concerned about where. Dress like a clown. Do a show intoxicated. Dress like a pirate. Saltine challenge. Cinnamon challenge. Speak with an accent. Baby food dinner. And mystery penalty. Mystery penalty really means we haven't come up with a good one. So
we got an extra week.
So we will have those all for next week. Now let's move to this week's pick'em, and then we'll look ahead at the matchups. All right. So again, I'm going to give you 2 names. Each of these is from each matchup that we have. So I've chosen one name from one team, one name for the other team, and you guys and myself will decide who is going to score more fantasy points. First one: Eckler against Houston or Najee against the Jets. Landon.
Eckler. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Just shout it out.
Yeah, I'm going Eckler. I hope so. I have him in my other league.
I'm going to go Eckler as well. Next matchup, Denver defense versus Vegas or Buffalo defense against Baltimore?
Denver.
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 I didn't do a good job here. Kirk against Philly or Mike Williams against Houston?
Well, after
Williams.
listening to Geoff's corner, I'm going to go with. I'm going to change my pick and go with Mike Williams.
I'm going to go Kirk. Waller against Denver or Ertz against Carolina?
I'm going to go Waller.
Ertz.
I'm going to go Waller. And last one, Diggs against Baltimore or Cup against San Fran?
This is a good one.
Diggs.
I'm going to go Diggs as well.
I'm going to go Cup. All right, so we'll see who loses next week and what penalty they choose. Week 4 preview.
Big play by Jamar Chase.
I see. I can't. How big a play? Should I just update this?
We're down to about the 3-yard line right now.
Oh, you just got 4
Dang
points. All right. All right.
Ooh, all right.
Crispy.
Back on the favorite. All right.
I'm getting notified about Jamar Chase's.
Joe Mixon,
Right.
touchdown number 2, coming at you.
No,
he's
go
the
Chase.
worst. All right, Crispy versus Walter. For Walter, these questions are to both of you unless I specify otherwise. For Walter, Lockett has had 22 targets over the last 2 weeks. So would you play Lockett or over Wilson or McLaurin?
I would play Lockett over Wilson. I think, again, Geoff's corner made me go Lockett there. But the Jets have Zach Wilson coming back, and I'd like to see how that target distribution goes 1 week before I play Wilson. The other Wilson.
Jeff agreed?
Good pick. Good pick.
All right, for Chris, if Hawkinson plays, he's injured, but if he plays, he's likely playing without Swift or Amon. But he's only caught 3 balls a game for each of the last 3 games. Are you playing him or Conklin, who has had 7 or more targets each game?
Look, I mean, Hawkinson. That's my answer. Set it and forget about it. That's how I look at it. I mean, Hawkinson is a. I know he's not playing to that level right now, but when he was drafted, we were all considering him to be between the 6 and, well, let's say 5 and 7 best tight end, right? So I know Conklin's had these targets, and that was with Flacco under center. So I have to imagine, who did Flacco play with when he was in Baltimore? He had some pretty good tight ends that he probably relied a lot on. We know he did, and so I have to think maybe that was rubbing off a little bit on Conklin. I don't necessarily see it as being scheme for that system. I like to believe that Hawkinson is going to get a lot of volume here moving forward.
Okay, who wins this one? Is Chris going 4-0?
I think so.
Man.
Oh, T. Higgins, did he score again? Or no?
No, I got Dan's All-Stars going. I got Dan's All-Stars taking the win out here.
I'm going to say Chris goes 4-0, but loses 9 players to injury. Next matchup, Bryden against BJV. BJV, again, question to both of you guys. BJV drafted Jamal Williams, which at the time seemed a little strange, but he's done nothing but good. So with Swift out, he's going to ball, and BJV has 4 solid running backs. Over under on the total those 4 running backs score 65 points. Over or under?
Over.
I just made up the number.
I will go over as well.
Okay. For Bryden, Thielen is in London going against New Orleans defense, which is pretty tough. You start him or Metcalf going against Detroit?
Thielen.
Metcalf.
And here's why. We talked about it. We talked a little bit about it. Justin Jefferson will be shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore, okay, which I believe will open up some opportunities for Thielen. As far as Metcalf, he's going against Akuda, who's going to be probably a shadow coverage there. I think Lockett has the better game of those two. So that's my logic.
Who wins here?
BJV.
Keep it going. BJV?
Yeah, I'm
Oh my
going
God.
BJV as well.
Yeah, I'll go BGB. I don't like it, but I'll do it. Next matchup. Underperformers versus Child Please. Got two of our biggest players going right now. Jeff, we're only going to ask questions to you. Landon is starting Dobbs. Am I pronouncing it right? Dobbs?
Yeah, Dobbs or Dobbs.
Is that a good start, or is he just chasing points?
I think he's chasing points a little bit. Here's an interesting stat that you might not know is Alan Lazard has scored touchdowns in 10 of his last 12 games, and actually I think he scored in every game of his last 7. So going back to last year. So obviously he didn't play the first 2 games of the season, but he scored touchdowns in the last 2 games. You know, look, Dobbs had a great game here where he found himself in a very beneficial matchup. Rodgers was able to get him the ball, and he was able to catch it, which, as we know, earning Rodgers' trust is first and foremost the most important thing for the Green Bay Packers. But I just think that he's going to have these up and down games. If you're not willing to maybe hold on to him for the long term, you're probably going to see more lows, which might opt you to drop him and put him back on the waivers. I mean, that's kind of where I was. I put him on the waivers last week, unfortunately, like an idiot. Before this big game, would have obviously loved to see this and maybe try to trade high with him, but it wasn't good. He wasn't doing that leading up to it, so it's just going to be one of those things. I mean, that's all I got. How's that sound?
That's enough. For my team, Jeff, would you play Carr or Lawrence? Carr's going against Denver. Lawrence against Philly.
I got to go Carr here. The Philadelphia defense is just too good, in my opinion. So I got to go.
Who
Carr.
wins this one?
I have the underperformers winning this one.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah. Good job, Shark. Shark Lando.
Baby.
Next one, Admore. Versus You're Fired. Again, questions to both of you guys. Let's say Admore needs to fill 2 of his flex spots since he has Amon, Davis, and I thought there was another one.
Davis didn't practice. Davis hasn't practiced either. So
right. So let's say he needs to replace both of those guys with bench
Touchdown.
players. Edmonds.
Hurst.
To who?
Hurst.
Okay.
Ugh.
Hurst looks like a beast. Which 2 out of Allen, Pollard, and ETN, let's just assume Allen's playing, would you go with?
Yeah, definitely Allen, but I would also throw Pollard in there. I liked Pollard and Allen as those 2 options, and I would say third would be Bateman.
Well, ETN's really the only option. Yep. Landon, same thing? Allen and Pollard?
I would agree.
Pollard's
Okay.
good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to get rid of
He's looks
Zeke
very
after
good.
this year. Like, he's gone in Dallas, and Pollard's going to move right on in.
For Fender, would you sit Juju for Ramondre? Ramondre's going against Green Bay, a hard defense.
Yes, I
Juju
would.
against Tampa Bay.
It's a tough matchup against Tampa Bay. I would sit Juju in this one.
Okay, who wins?
Give
I'm
me
going
add
Fender.
more bench spots.
I'm going to go Admore as well. Fender, huh? He does have Olave. Olave's sexy. Last matchup.
Dropped Olave. I'm so upset about that.
Yeah, you should be. That was a rough one. Touchdown my pants versus Big Tasty. Landon, these are only questions to you now. Landon, from a row, with all the Detroit guys likely out, would you play Shark over MVS? This is for Adam's team.
Absolutely. MVS is, as Geoff, I forgot who we said it about, maybe some cornerback, but MVS is absolute trash. He cannot be trusted whatsoever.
Okay, and then with Swift, let's assume he is out for Jeff's team. Would you play Pierce or Gibson? Gibson against Dallas, Pierce against Chargers.
Gibson's snap rates have gone down every single week, so I would play the upside of Dameon Pierce.
Okay, who wins this one, guys?
I'm going Geoff.
Look, I need a big game out of Jared Goff. Let's go. Touchdown my pants.
That makes me giggle. I'm going to go Adam. Guys, this was fun.
Yes, it was.
Good luck this weekend. Any parting words to our viewers?
No, I mean, make sure you like us, hit that subscribe button, right? And Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your social media feeds, even though we don't have any of those. But
MySpace.
Yeah, I'm on
thanks for
90%
joining
of
us.
this.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
guys.
listening. Good luck this weekend.